While everyone blames menopause or stress for sleepless nights after 50, the real culprit is a hormone that's supposed to help you. This biological betrayal happens to 89% of people, yet nobody talks about it. Sleep used to be so much easier, didn't it? You'd hit the pillow and wake up 8 hours later feeling refreshed. But somewhere after your 50th birthday, something changed. Now you're lying awake at 2 a.m. wondering why your brain won't shut off, or you fall asleep fine, but wake up every few hours like clockwork. You're not losing your mind. Your sleep really is getting worse, and there's actual science behind it. Here's what's happening inside your body. Sleep becomes lighter and more fragmented as you age. Those deep restorative sleep stages that used to carry you through the night, they're shrinking. Instead of sleeping like a rock, you're sleeping like a feather, floating on the surface, easily disturbed by every creak in the house, or your partner's snoring. The numbers tell a brutal story. After age 50, people lose about 27 minutes of sleep per decade. That might not sound like much, but it adds up fast. By your 70s, you could be missing nearly 2 hours of sleep compared to your younger self. And it's not just quantity, it's quality too. REM sleep, the stage where you dream, and your brain does its most important repair work, drops to about half of what young adults experience. Think about that for a second. Half, your brain is getting half the maintenance time it used to have. Then there's the midnight wake-up calls. Nighttime awakenings skyrocket after 50. You might fall asleep easily enough, but staying asleep becomes the real challenge. Some nights you'll wake up 4 or 5 times, each awakening pulling you further from that deep healing rest your body desperately needs. What makes this especially frustrating is that you're often tired during the day but wired at night. Your energy feels off-kilter, like someone reset your internal clock to the wrong time zone. Poor sleep has become one of the most common complaints among people over 50, and it's not just about feeling groggy. When you don't sleep well, everything else suffers. Your memory gets fuzzy, your mood takes a hit. Even your immune system starts slacking off. But here's where it gets interesting, and a little infuriating. Most doctors will tell you this is just normal aging. They'll suggest better sleep hygiene, or maybe a sleep study. While those things can help, they're missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. The real culprit behind your sleep struggles isn't just getting older, it's not even stress, though that doesn't help. The truth is much more specific, and once you understand it, you can actually do something about it. Your body's internal chemistry is shifting in ways that directly sabotage your sleep. Chemical messengers that once worked in perfect harmony to bring you restful nights are now working against you. The most important of these troublemakers, hormones. These tiny but mighty chemicals control when you feel alert and when you feel sleepy. When they're balanced, sleep comes naturally. When they're not, well, that's when the 2 a.m. ceiling staring sessions begin. When you wake up at 3 a.m. staring at the ceiling, your body isn't just being difficult for no reason. There's actually a sophisticated chemical orchestra playing behind the scenes, and frankly, some of the musicians are getting a bit rusty with age. Hormones are your body's chemical messengers. They're like tiny text messages, zipping around your bloodstream, telling different parts of your body what to do and when to do it. Sleep, wake up, feel hungry, get sleepy. It's all controlled by these molecular messengers working around the clock. But here's where it gets interesting. 3 hormones in particular run the show when it comes to your sleep: cortisol, melatonin, and testosterone. Each one has a specific job, and when they're working properly, you sleep like a baby. When they're not, well, that's when you find yourself counting sheep at midnight. Let's start with cortisol, which has earned itself the nickname the stress hormone. This little troublemaker is supposed to surge when you're facing danger or stress. Makes sense, right? If a bear is chasing you, cortisol floods your system to help you run faster and think quicker. The problem is, cortisol doesn't know the difference between a real bear and your worries about tomorrow's doctor appointment. Then there's melatonin, which is basically your body's natural sleep pill. As darkness falls, melatonin levels rise, making you drowsy and ready for bed. It's like having a built-in dimmer switch for your brain. Unfortunately, this natural dimmer switch starts getting weaker as you age, producing less melatonin each year. Testosterone also plays a surprising role in sleep quality. Most people think of it as just a male hormone, but both men and women need it for deep restorative sleep. And guess what happens to testosterone levels after 50? They drop like a rock. The real kicker is how these hormones are supposed to work together in perfect harmony. During your younger years, Cortisol naturally dips in the evening while melatonin rises. Testosterone maintains steady levels that support deep sleep cycles. It's like a perfectly choreographed dance that happens every single night without you even thinking about it. But after 50, this dance starts looking more like a clumsy waltz. The timing gets off. Cortisol might stay high when it should be low. Melatonin production becomes inconsistent. Testosterone levels fluctuate unpredictably. Suddenly, your once reliable sleep system becomes about as dependable as a weather forecast. What's particularly frustrating is that these hormonal shifts don't happen gradually. One night you're sleeping fine, and then seemingly out of nowhere you're wide awake at 2 a.m. wondering what changed. The answer is usually sitting right there in your bloodstream, in the form of these misbehaving chemical messengers. And the weird part is, most people have no idea this hormonal chaos is happening inside them. They just know they can't sleep like they used to, and assume it's normal aging. While aging does play a role, understanding which specific hormone is causing the biggest disruption can actually help you do something about it. Speaking of disruption, there's one hormone on this list that deserves special attention for just how much havoc it can wreak on your sleep after 50. We've talked about how hormones mess with your sleep after 50. Now let's zero in on the biggest troublemaker of them all. Meet cortisol, your body's built-in alarm system that's supposed to help you survive danger, but instead keeps you staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. Cortisol gets called the stress hormone, and that nickname fits perfectly. When your brain senses trouble, whether it's a charging tiger or just your neighbor's leaf blower at dawn, cortisol floods your system faster than you can say fight or flight. Your heart pounds, your muscles tense up, and suddenly you're wide awake and ready for action. Here's how it's supposed to work. Cortisol should spike in the morning to get you moving, then gradually drop throughout the day like air leaking from a balloon. By evening, it should hit rock bottom, letting your body know it's safe to power down for the night. Think of it as your internal dimmer switch. But here's where things get interesting for people over 50. That dimmer switch starts malfunctioning. Instead of cortisol dropping nice and low when you're brushing your teeth and getting ready for bed, it stays cranked up high. Your body thinks it's still daytime, or worse, that you're in some kind of emergency. Research shows that after age 50, evening cortisol levels often refuse to fall like they should. While younger people see their cortisol drop to almost nothing by bedtime, older adults maintain levels that would make a coffee addict jealous. Your brain gets mixed signals. The clock says sleep time, but your hormones are screaming stay alert. High nighttime cortisol keeps your entire system buzzing with unnecessary energy. Your brain stays partially switched on, scanning for threats that don't exist. Your muscles remain slightly tense. Even your digestive system stays more active than it should. It's like trying to sleep while someone's playing music in the next room, not loud enough to fully wake you, but just enough to keep you restless. The cruel irony, you feel exhausted, but your body won't let you get the deep, restorative sleep you desperately need. You might fall asleep initially, but staying asleep becomes the real challenge. Those 3 a.m. wake-ups aren't random, they're often cortisol surges pulling you out of precious deep sleep phases. And the weird part is, this isn't necessarily about being more stressed than younger people. Sure, life after 50 can bring its share of worries, health concerns, financial pressures, aging parents, but even relatively calm, healthy adults experience this cortisol timing shift. It's like your internal clock's wiring starts going haywire with age. This hormonal misbehavior explains why that glass of warm milk or counting sheep doesn't work anymore. You're not just dealing with an overactive mind. You're fighting against a chemical messenger that's basically yelling danger when you should be drifting off peacefully. The question becomes, why does cortisol start acting up specifically after 50? The answer involves some fascinating changes in how our aging bodies handle stress hormones, and those changes might surprise you. You know how your body used to follow a predictable schedule when you were younger. Cortisol would rise in the morning, keep you alert during the day, then politely bow out by evening. Well, after 50, cortisol apparently didn't get the retirement memo. Research shows something fascinating happens around midlife. Scientists tracked cortisol levels in thousands of adults and found that evening cortisol climbs about 19 units per decade after age 50. That might sound like medical jargon, but here's what it means in real terms. Your stress hormone stays awake longer than you want to. The weird part is this isn't happening because you're suddenly more stressed than younger people. Sure, life after 50 brings its challenges. Maybe you're dealing with aging parents, career pressures, or wondering why your knee makes that creaking sound. But even healthy adults with relatively calm lives show this same pattern. Their cortisol just refuses to wind down at bedtime like it used to. Think about it this way. When you were 30, cortisol was like a reliable employee who clocked out at 5 p.m. sharp. Now it's like that coworker who hangs around the office until 9 p.m., not because there's more work to do, but because something in their internal schedule got rewired. Studies following people over multiple decades reveal this shift doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual, sneaky even. You might not notice it at first because the changes are subtle. Maybe you lie in bed for an extra 10 minutes before falling asleep, or you wake up once during the night instead of sleeping straight through. But over time, these small disruptions add up. Then there's the domino effect nobody talks about. Higher evening cortisol doesn't just make falling asleep harder, it actually changes the quality of sleep you get. When cortisol stays elevated, your brain spends less time in those deeper restorative sleep stages, the ones where your body does its best repair work. Scientists have measured this using sleep labs where people spend the night hooked up to monitoring equipment. What they found is pretty eye-opening. Adults with higher nighttime cortisol spend significantly less time in deep sleep, even when they manage to fall asleep at a reasonable hour. It's like your body is running a background program that won't shut down completely. The timing of this cortisol shift is particularly cruel. Just when life might be throwing you more curveballs, health concerns, family responsibilities, financial planning for retirement, your body's stress response system decides to become hypervigilant at bedtime. But here's what makes this especially frustrating. Many people blame themselves for their sleep problems. They think they're not relaxing hard enough or that they should just try chamomile tea and hope for the best. The reality is, there's a biological process working against them that has nothing to do with willpower, and the changes don't stop there. Once cortisol starts staying high at night, it begins affecting how your body responds to everything else: food, exercise, even other hormones. But understanding exactly how this elevated cortisol disrupts your actual sleep patterns reveals why simply trying to relax often isn't enough to solve the problem. So we've established that your cortisol levels are throwing a nighttime party when they should be winding down for bed. But what exactly does this hormone hijacking do to your actual sleep? Well, the news isn't great. When cortisol stays elevated in the evening, your brain gets confused about what time it is. Remember, cortisol is supposed to be your morning wake-up call, not your bedtime companion. Having high cortisol at night is like someone constantly tapping you on the shoulder saying stay alert, something might happen. Your nervous system remains revved up when it should be shifting into sleep mode. The first casualty, falling asleep, becomes a nightmare. You lie there, eyes closed, but your mind races through tomorrow's to-do list or replays today's conversations. Your body feels tired, but your brain won't shut off. Sound familiar? That's elevated cortisol keeping your mental engine running when you're trying to park it for the night. But let's say you finally drift off. High cortisol doesn't just ruin your sleep on set, it messes with your sleep architecture too. Think of normal sleep like a carefully choreographed dance between light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Cortisol crashes this dance party. You spend more time in lighter sleep stages, which means less time in the deep, restorative phases your body desperately needs. Then there's the REM sleep situation. REM is when you dream, and it's crucial for memory consolidation and emotional processing. High cortisol can slash your REM sleep time significantly. You wake up feeling like your brain didn't get to properly file away the day's experiences. Makes sense, right? The middle of the night awakenings are perhaps the most frustrating part. Normal cortisol patterns help keep you asleep through the night. But when cortisol spikes at the wrong times, you wake up at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m., often feeling wired despite being exhausted. These aren't quick bathroom breaks either. We're talking about lying awake for 30 minutes to 2 hours, watching the clock tick by. Here's where it gets really problematic. These awakenings often come with a side of anxiety or racing thoughts. Your cortisol-flooded system interprets waking up as a sign that something's wrong, so it pumps out even more stress hormones. It's like your body's alarm system is broken and keeps going off for no reason. A fascinating 10-year study tracked adults over 50 and found something striking. Those with the highest evening cortisol levels consistently slept fewer total hours each night. We're not talking about minor differences. Some people were losing an hour or more of sleep regularly, over months and years. This sleep debt compounds into serious health consequences. The cruel irony: the less you sleep due to high cortisol, the higher your cortisol tends to climb the next day. Your body interprets sleep deprivation as a stressor, which triggers more cortisol production. This creates a vicious cycle that gets harder to break with each passing night. Now that you understand how cortisol demolishes your sleep quality, you might be wondering about the bigger picture. what this ongoing sleep destruction actually does to your health over time. We've been talking about high cortisol wreaking havoc on your sleep, but here's where things get seriously concerning. The damage doesn't stop when morning arrives. When cortisol stays elevated night after night, your body pays a steep price. Think your brain is safe. Think again. Studies show that people over 50 with consistently high nighttime cortisol face nearly double the risk of memory problems and cognitive decline. That's not a coincidence. Your brain needs deep sleep to clear out toxic proteins that build up during the day. High cortisol blocks this cleaning process, leaving your mind foggy and forgetful. Then there's your blood sugar. Cortisol basically tells your liver to dump glucose into your bloodstream, preparing you for that ancient fight or flight response. Makes sense, right? Except you're not fighting a bear, you're lying in bed trying to sleep. This extra sugar has nowhere to go, so it just circulates, wreaking havoc on your insulin sensitivity. Over time, this nightly sugar dump significantly increases your diabetes risk. But wait, it gets worse. High cortisol is like having a metabolism wrecking machine running in your bedroom every night. It breaks down muscle tissue while encouraging fat storage, especially around your midsection. Ever wonder why that belly fat seems impossible to lose after 50? Elevated nighttime cortisol might be your culprit. Let's not forget what this does to your immune system. Cortisol suppresses immune function. That's actually one of its jobs. A little suppression during genuine stress is fine, but chronic elevation leaves you vulnerable to every bug that comes along. Research shows that people with poor sleep and high cortisol get sick 40% more often than good sleepers. And the weird part is how your body's repair systems just start giving up. Normally, sleep triggers the release of growth hormone, which repairs tissues and keeps you looking and feeling younger. High cortisol blocks this process almost entirely. You're literally aging faster because your stress hormone won't let your body fix itself. Women face an especially brutal combination during menopause. Hot flashes often spike when cortisol levels are highest, creating a perfect storm of sleep disruption. One triggers the other in an exhausting cycle. Many women report their worst hot flashes happen between 2 and 4 a.m., exactly when cortisol should be at its lowest, but often isn't. The cardiovascular system takes a beating too. Chronic nighttime cortisol elevation increases blood pressure and inflammation, setting the stage for heart problems down the road. Your heart never gets the restful break it needs to recover from daily stress. Here's what really gets me: most people experiencing these symptoms get told it's just normal aging. Well, elevated nighttime cortisol might be common after 50, but it's not normal, and it's certainly not something you have to accept. The cumulative effect of all this damage creates a health spiral that accelerates with each passing year. But here's the thing, understanding why this happens reveals something crucial about breaking free from it. You finally fall asleep after tossing and turning for what feels like hours. Then boom, you're wide awake at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling again. Your mind starts racing about tomorrow's meeting, last week's argument, or that weird noise the car made. Before you know it, you're stressed about being stressed about not sleeping. Welcome to the most frustrating trap your body can set for you after 50. Here's what's really happening inside your system. When you sleep poorly, your body treats it like a threat. Makes sense, right? For thousands of years, broken sleep meant danger lurked nearby. Your brain hasn't gotten the memo that you're safe in your own bed. Instead, it cranks up cortisol production the next evening, thinking it needs to keep you alert for another potential all-nighter. But here's the kicker: that extra cortisol makes falling asleep even harder the following night. You end up lying there, frustrated and wired, while your stress hormone levels climb higher. The worse you sleep, the more cortisol your body pumps out. The more cortisol floating around at bedtime, the more your sleep suffers. It's like being stuck on a broken escalator that only goes up. Then there's the anticipation factor, which might be even worse than the hormone chaos itself. By Thursday, you're already dreading bedtime because the last 3 nights were disasters. Your brain starts associating your bedroom with stress instead of rest. The moment your head hits the pillow, your cortisol spikes just from expecting another rough night. Research from sleep labs shows this cycle can persist for months without intervention. One particularly eye-opening study tracked adults over 55 for 6 weeks. Those who slept poorly on Monday night were 73% more likely to have elevated cortisol on Tuesday evening. By the end of the week, their stress hormones were running nearly twice as high as people who slept well consistently. The weird part is how quickly this pattern becomes your new normal. Your body starts preparing for poor sleep automatically. Around dinner time, cortisol begins its upward climb. By 9 p.m., you're buzzing with nervous energy instead of feeling drowsy. Your internal clock gets completely scrambled, like a watch that's perpetually running fast. Breaking free isn't impossible, but it requires attacking both sides of the problem simultaneously. You can't just focus on sleep hygiene and ignore the hormone chaos. You also can't just manage stress without addressing the sleep disruption itself. They're too tangled together. Let's not forget that this cycle affects more than just your nights. High cortisol during the day makes you irritable, foggy, and prone to afternoon crashes. Poor sleep leaves you reaching for extra coffee and sugary snacks. Before long, your entire daily rhythm is off kilter. The good news, once you understand what's driving this merry-go-round, you can start stepping off it. But it takes the right combination of strategies, timing, and patience. Most people try to fix their sleep without addressing the hormone piece of the puzzle and wonder why nothing changes. The solution lies in targeting both problems with specific proven techniques that work together. You've learned how cortisol hijacks your sleep after 50, turning your nights into a frustrating cycle of tossing and turning. But here's the good news, you're not powerless against this hormonal troublemaker. Let's talk about real practical steps that can help you reclaim your sleep and tell cortisol to take a back seat. Exercise might sound like the most obvious advice in the world, but timing matters more than you think. Working out during the day, especially in the morning or afternoon, naturally lowers cortisol levels by evening. Your body burns off stress hormones the way it's supposed to. Just don't hit the gym right before bed, unless you enjoy feeling wired when your head hits the pillow. Then there's your pre-bedtime routine, which probably needs a serious makeover. Bright lights trick your brain into thinking it's still daytime, keeping cortisol pumping when it should be winding down. Dim the lights an hour before bed. Put away the phone. Makes sense, right? Your ancient brain doesn't know the difference between a glowing screen and actual sunlight. But let's not forget about what you're putting in your body. That late dinner you had at 8 p.m. Your digestive system is working overtime when it should be shutting down for the night, which can spike cortisol. Eating your last meal at least 3 hours before bed gives your body time to process food without interfering with sleep hormones. And the weird part is how much your morning coffee affects your nighttime sleep. Caffeine doesn't just disappear after a few hours, it can linger in your system for up to 8 hours. That afternoon cup might be the reason you're staring at the ceiling at midnight. Alcohol presents its own problems too. Sure, it might make you drowsy initially, but it disrupts sleep quality and can cause cortisol to surge in the middle of the night. Mind-body techniques sound fancy, but they're surprisingly simple. Deep breathing exercises signal your nervous system to shift from alert mode to rest mode. Even 5 minutes of slow, deliberate breathing can start lowering cortisol levels. Meditation works the same way. It's like giving your stress hormones a gentle nudge toward the exit door. Progressive muscle relaxation is another tool worth trying. Tense and release each muscle group from your toes to your head. This physical act of letting go helps your mind follow suit. Your body can't be stressed and relaxed at the same time. It's biologically impossible. Well, some people need more than lifestyle changes alone. If you've tried everything and still can't break the cortisol sleep cycle, talking to a healthcare provider makes perfect sense. They might suggest hormone testing or treatments specifically designed to rebalance your system. The beauty of these strategies is that they work together, creating a compound effect. Better daytime habits lead to lower evening cortisol, which improves sleep quality, which helps regulate hormones the next day. But even with all these tools at your disposal, there's still one crucial element that determines whether these changes actually stick long term.